Welcome back, book nerds. It's Angie, and on today's episode of the podcast, I will be speaking with David Bly and Leah Rudick, the filmmakers behind Sweet Parents. The relationship between an aspiring sculptor and a struggling young chef in New York suffers when they become entangled with older benefactors who may be able to further their careers. Let's not keep you waiting any longer and jump into the podcast. Hi there, book nerds. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. Joining us today, we have David Bly and Leah Rudick. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited to talk to you guys. Now, for our audience that isn't familiar with you or your work, can you please each introduce yourselves?
Sure. I am Leah. We're both based in Los Angeles. We moved out here from New York, and I am an actor and a comedian and a writer. Yeah.
I'm David. I'm originally from Canada, from Montreal. We are a married couple that work together and live together and love together. And yeah, this is our first feature that we've made on our own. It's called Sweet Parents. And we've worked together a couple other times, but this is our biggest project to date so far.
And for our audience that hasn't maybe heard of Sweet Parents, do you mind telling us a little bit about the film?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So Sweet Parents is a film about a couple living in New York, sort of a struggling artist couple of a sculptor, Gabby, played by Leah, and a chef, Will, played by myself, who are struggling to get by, eking by in New York. It's just a tough grind of living in New York and surviving and being successful. And they get this like fast slapdash piece of advice from a friend that if you want to make it in New York, the way that New York has evolved, you have to have a sugar mama or a sugar daddy. So that's where the name of the film comes from, Sweet Parents. And so they rant against this advice, thinking that they're there for noble causes and they want to succeed on their own merits. But somewhat organically, they each start a relationship with a successful older man and woman who make their lives and careers a lot easier, ultimately at the detriment of their own relationship. So it's about the greed of New York and the hunger to succeed, sort of infiltrating a very innocent couple's relationship, sort of like the snake in the Garden of Eden, and leads them to make a sacrifice that, might work out or not.
Yeah, it reminded me of La La Land, where everything is just going wrong. So it was nice to see a feature just focused on that whole section.
Yeah, it's funny, when we first saw La La Land, I remember we were sitting at home, we were watching the screener from SAG, and we sat there on the couch, just utterly destroyed by the film. It was so beautiful. And we both just sat there, looked at each other, and were like, this is the big budget blockbuster Hollywood musical version of Sweet Parents. It has such a similar heart to it.
Totally.
Yeah, I was able to pick up that parallel, and I hope anyone who watches or has watched both films is able to catch that as well.
Me too.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you lived in New York previously, and you are a couple yourselves. Do you mind telling us a little bit about the inspiration behind the film?
Sure.
You go ahead.
Yeah,
you take this one.
Yeah.
Take this one too.
So I started working on the film in about 2006, 2007, about a year or so after I had moved to New York from Montreal. I was in grad school for acting in New York. And for anyone that's lived in New York, that's moved there to pursue a passion, it's like a punch in the face to survive. It's just extremely hard. And I knew some people, I met some people that were living this type of lifestyle of having an elder benefactor, a sugar mama or a sugar daddy. And it's pretty common in New York. It's sort of like this well-known underbelly of the city. It's not so seedy, but like a lot of people have this arrangement. And I was just fascinated by it. And I wish that I could have done it. I was not that, I wish I was more debonair to arrange something like that for myself. I was in a relationship at the time, and I just like, it was an interesting idea that I thought that would make a good film idea. So I started working on that idea for a couple years. And then when Leah and I started dating, when you meet the person that you love the most and want to spend the rest of your life with, that's when the seed of the idea, the main heart of the story for Sweet Parents changed, because it became something a lot more authentic. And we started working on the script together and really fleshing out the characters and really focusing on the intimacy between everyone in the film. And yeah, I think that's when it really became something much more important to us, and not just some like zeitgeisty idea of like how to survive in New York or whatever.
That line where your friend in the film mentions like he likes to call his sugar daddy his sweet parents.
Yeah,
I was like, that I see what they did.
Yeah.
There it is.
And the whole time watching the film, I was kind of just like watching everything escalate downwards and this like huge spiral, and I was just like, oh my gosh, how is this gonna end? But I was very satisfied with the ending. So
that's not common. I mean, like we'll talk about the festivals after, but in every screening we've done, there's just like this,
people take sides. They get upset and they take sides.
I did take a little side
with my character, right?
Really?
Of course, yeah. I'm sorry, David. I was just like, shut up, please. But yeah, like, yeah, I would find it hard to side with David's character. I don't know why. It's just
Had you read the synopsis, maybe? Had you read the synopsis, you would have sided with my character. That's what it is. People who read the synopses, no. Most people side with Leah's character, but it's been fun to talk about the ending a bit more in depth with some audiences, and I'm able to suavely convince them otherwise. But,
I mean, towards the end, I was kind of like 50-50, but for a majority, I was just like, I didn't.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I think it's
but
like,
that's
also, it's like interesting to hear what people are really split on what they think actually happened between the characters and their benefactor, like what happened behind the scenes in the story. And it's interesting to hear people's theories.
We would do a poll. We would take a poll in a lot of our screenings. One of our producers would just like jump up and like, hey, raise your hand if you think Leah's character, Gabby, slept with the older man, Oscar. And you'd have a smattering of hands, usually a lot. Then she would ask, who here thinks that Will slept with the older woman, Guylaine? And you'd see like every hand go up. And you'd have another poll of like, who do you think was in the right or who was in the wrong? And I didn't get a lot of support, but it was just a fun temperature taking of the audience. It was always great.
It was your performance, because when she was like, did you sleep with her? You kind of just like avoided the whole thing and you got it super mad. It's just like, well, he's guilty, So you got to blame your own performance.
She didn't answer either. Listen, if she's not going to give an answer, then I don't have to give an answer. That's the only fair way to go about this.
Well, Leslie, I just feel like it's like her reaction was a lot more valid, because it's just like, where did this come from, So, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, David. But
Angie.
Oh God.
That's just the rest of the podcast. We're going back and forth about if they did or didn't.
I have to convince you now.
And what was it like writing the screenplay together?
Well, I mean, it was good. As David said, he started the the script years before we met. So it was an interesting process to kind of pick it up together. And it was, it was like, it was also helpful that we were acting in it together, because we could craft the lines and rewrite based on the like our own voices.
And like actual conversations that we had in our real life about our own careers and our own struggles financially and artistically in New York. We also like moved to California before we shot the film, so we were still like tweaking the script all along, trying to get it made somehow. And so with every passing week, year, we were adapting the script, allowing it to evolve naturally and organically with our own lives. And I think I had a hard time with New York leading up to our departure from New York. And we had conversations, discussions, debates, arguments about our own respective appreciations for New York. I had lost appreciation for it, and you still had a very strong appreciation for it. And I think that's sort of an undercurrent of the film as well, is that like my own personal feelings of like hurt from New York, that like the city that I had given everything of myself to try to succeed, it wasn't reciprocated. And I felt so betrayed by it. And I feel like I had lost hope. I think you still had hope and still have hope. I mean, we made the movie about that, but I think that gets thrown into the film as well, whether it's through performance or subtle dialogue hints or whatever. But it just kept evolving over the years, especially when we were dating, in a serious relationship, getting married, etc.
And did the script change once Leah jumped onto the project, or was it, mostly the same?
There's certain
concept
parts that are from the first draft, which I feel like is an exciting thing, that just the initial spark to write this story, some of that still is there from, at this point, 12, 13 years ago, which I love. And there's other stuff that either got completely cut out, completely changed because it was just trash. I mean, like there was the original incarnation of the script. I sent it to two friends that I had in New York, and they were an older couple, and they both, one was an actor, one was a writer, and they read the script. And they were very kind. They gave me some great feedback. This is before I was working on it with Leah. And they said that in its current incarnation at the time, it was focusing more on like the sexual jealousy component of the script. And they said to me, if this is the focus of the film, no one over 32, 35 or whatever is going to care about this movie. It's going to be a very youthful, immature story, not immature like childlike, but just like it's not necessarily what someone over 35, 40 or whatever cares about in a relationship. And I think that coincided with the same time that Leah and I started dating, and I fell in love and understood more about relationships, that it was less about the sexual jealousy of the story and more about the jealousy of self-worth. And that's why we never address whether they had sex with each of the sweet parents, right? Like that's not important to the story, whether they do or not. I really learned a lot from this couple that read the script, and that just so fortunately coincided with our relationship. And that's when the script really changed, and we both just like put our heart and our like own love for each other into the script.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the film as well, is that it wasn't about the scandal, whether or not they slept with their sugar parents, but it was more of like, them struggling to keep the relationship alive, but also struggling on their own paths.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that you were able to bring that aspect to the film.
Do you hear that?
I heard something.
Sometimes these cars do like insane
There, I heard that one.
loops, and it's terrifying. Right
We live-
outside of our
We live in
house.
an area where there's like actually like a big intersection. It's a residential area, but there's a big intersection, and at random times, sometimes like 3 a.m, someone will just come do toilet bowls in the middle of the street. And
Is
it's
that
like,
what they're called?
yeah, toilet
3
bowls.
in the morning.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was around the time that the Dodgers won the World Series and the Lakers won the NBA title, and it was like people were just raising steam.
I
So
can't believe that. That's insane. That's ridiculous that they interrupt your sleep though. Just for a little.
it's not common, but it's just that's what makes it even more alarming.
But yeah, I mean, I think you were saying just this idea that it's less about the sexual jealousy and the scandal and more about your own self-worth in a relationship, and when another person can give your partner something that you can't give them in terms of like progressing their career or whatever.
Yeah, and they can come in an instant and change that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you had been trying and offering your support and love for that person and wanting so desperately for your partner to succeed, and ultimately feeling like you're failing at it, and someone just comes in, and I think that's way more interesting to us than just the sexual component of jealousy that I think we've seen in a lot of movies already. So I think we tried to go a different path with this.
Yeah, and you guys did excellent at it. And also, to go back to what David was saying about, him losing his love for New York, that really translated well into the film. And it kind of like showed me a new perspective of New York. And I was just like, dang, it really is tough out there, isn't it? Because I am from LA, so it's like, I know how it is here, but so everything I see about New York, it's on TV and film. So to see this new perspective, I was just like, sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard city to live in.
There was like I had a intention when we were in pre-production to have I wanted to add something to the script, to the story, that ultimately got axed, which I think was rightfully so, was that anytime anyone like entered a scene, or at some point, at least one time in every scene, someone just says like, I fucking hate this city. Sorry if I can't swear, but I effing hate the city. And just like mumbling underneath their breath saying that, because everyone says that there, but they also ride it out and they grind it out and they put up with so much that they have to express how much they hate this in order for them to not have it bottle up, and then they can just go back to appreciating the city. We didn't do that because it would have been a lot to keep track of, and then we already had to cut some stuff. But yeah,
that's
You
interesting.
don't need to be so heavy-handed about your hatred for New York.
Oh, it's definitely a trend right now where everyone's just kind of like, I hate it here, just to like let it out. Especially right now, we're all home. Everyone's just like, I hate it here.
Yeah.
We keep saying we can't imagine living in New York right now. Like, just being like stuck in a tiny apartment for months would be brutal.
That's a sequel right there.
Yeah.
So, Sweet Parents, pandemic edition.
The four of us
yeah.
shacked up together, maybe in Brazil, but that would be
nice.
That would be very nice, actually. You get to live out a nice, relaxful time while.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll close it. I'm gonna close this blind because it's blurred out. Sorry.
I know. I'm scared my light's gonna run out soon with the time change.
No, it's darker now. It's fine. You're in LA. You're in California.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the time change is just like in an instant.
I know, it's like dark at 4:00 now.
Yeah. So towards the end of this podcast, you're gonna see my lighting go. Shoo.
Yeah. Sorry that the lighting is now gonna change midway through, but
no, you're good. But also to add on, would you say it's easier to act in your film because you wrote it? Like you already attached yourself to these characters. So was it easier to film and, portray these characters?
I think so. I mean,
It's a great question.
yeah. You're I feel like often, we both write and act, and when you write something and then you hear it from someone else acted, it's often not at all what you imagined in your head. But I think it was a really great thing. It's really nice to be able to write something and then how you meant it to be performed and spoken. So in that sense, I think it does make it easier. I don't know, maybe you're too close to it in some ways also.
Totally. I think there's like some added pressure on what you said, and because you know it, you know how it's supposed to sound, but then you also have to imbue it with that emotion that you've been visualizing for so long. And if you don't hit that emotion just because of, you're on set with a bunch of people and it's not as intimate as it is when you're alone with your computer. So the pressure to imbue it with that same weight as it is in your head, when you don't hit it, it's like, I know I'm not there. And that's just like a struggle. And that's on like the acting end as opposed to the writing end. But yeah, I think there's pros and cons, but I like you, I think, love that we were able to perform our own words. That's what it was written in mind with us to perform. I mean, at least myself when I first started, but I mean, naturally, once we were together to be performing it.
I'm so sorry, I got an Amber Alert. Anyways.
Oh, yeah. Missing endangered elderly.
Yeah.
Can we change this interview into solving this Amber Alert?
that's the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. Every podcast, we solve one big mystery. True crime meets independent film storyteller interview.
And then we'll throw in a little bit about Sweet Parents each episode as well.
Okay,
yeah.
But while I remember that, do you have a favorite part of your film?
I feel like there's two. I really, in the opening few scenes, there's, so all of those scenes in the beginning where we're looking for an apartment and we're like 8-9 years younger than we are, all of those scenes are based on real experiences that I had had. I had walked into an apartment that had some colorful stuff on the wall that was shown an apartment that way. I had been shown an apartment where there was a guy masturbating in one of the bedrooms that wasn't supposed to be there. There's another scene I think we cut out. Oh, I had been shown many basements. I think every person who looks for apartments in New York has been shown many basements where no one's supposed to be living. And there's another scene where I think we cut out that the realtor didn't have a key, so he asked if I would be comfortable scaling like through fire escapes, the side of the building, or even going up on the roof and then going down the fire escapes. And I was like, absolutely not. And we like shot that scene, but we just didn't use it for time. But I really love the scene with the guy, the realtor in the movie is a friend of ours, Daniel, and he's so funny. And the guy who is pleasuring himself is just a hilarious guy, our friend Evan, and we have a much longer take of that scene that is very funny. We didn't use it for time, and it also just like distracted from the point of the movie, but we had to cut out a relatively decent amount of the like funniest moments of the film.
Yeah.
One for time, and two, I think it just like didn't help certain moments. It sort of like came at the wrong time, and
it didn't propel the story forward in the right way. But we were very lucky in that we cast our friends who are, many of them are amazing comedians in New York, and so I feel like we have so much footage from so many scenes from several of the characters that were just like brilliantly improvised and just like so funny that we you know, that we had to cut down because ultimately it's a drama.
Like there's two actors in the film, Chris Roberti and Sunita Mani, that are like two of the funniest people we know. We'd worked with Chris on several other projects.
And Katie.
And Katie in the coffee shop scene. That just like each one of these scenes with them were usually the like lighter scenes of the day that were a lot of fun to work on because they're it's funny that like also being the writer in the scene where you're like hoping that the text makes sense and they would just improvise a little bit to make it their own, and it was easy to allow them to let them roam with the words and have fun with it because knowing them for so long, we knew that they were just going to make those scenes a lot stronger than they already were. So yeah.
I mean, the part for me that was funny that probably wasn't meant to be funny, it's when, you know, you have Will going, I'm never getting a sugar mama. Never, never, never. And then like all of a sudden he does this 180. So that's where I laugh. But it was just funny. And there was another part too, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But there were some moments where I was just like laughing out of nervousness as well, where I was just like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And because of, you know, all the improvisation that, you know, had to get cut, or, you know, is there any other difficulties that you ran into during the project where you kind of, you know, didn't expect something to happen?
Well, there were a lot. It was a really quick shoot, and it kind of happened all of a sudden. Like we were visiting New York, and we were planning to go back to LA, and then some things just kind of fell into place, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, we can shoot the film now, in this like very small window of time. And normally you would have had you know, a month of pre-production, and we all of a sudden had like 2 weeks, and so everything was kind of moving at like a like breakneck speed.
Like we had gone to New York with just our carry-on bags, supposed to be for like a weekend trip, and then, you know, the clothes that we had were like the main wardrobe of the film. Certain things like that where you're like making things fit based on the parameters that we had, the time frame that we had to make this film. And
yeah, so it was like this constant process of like being like, oh, this is impossible, this is something that can't be solved, but you just have to solve it. It's like we didn't have a DP like 3 days before the shoot, and there was like all of a sudden the perfect one just landed in our lap. I feel like it was a series of moments like that, of just like, oh no, this isn't gonna work, and it just magically worked.
And was David freaking out the most out of the two of you as the director? He's just like, oh my gosh.
I was cool as a cube.
She was staying out all hours of the night. Yeah, like, I'll get there.
I was hitting the clubs.
I'm at home doing work on a script, and just like, where is she?
Yeah, he was very stressful.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of support from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Throughout the process. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you guys, I didn't realize you only had that little bit of time to film, so that's even more impressive that you were able to just like wring this out and make a great film.
Totally. And that's where we're very fortunate that we had so long to sit with this script, to work on it, to visualize it. So like, whereas our pre-production was 2-3 weeks, as Leah said, it was actually many years, just, you know, in our heads. But to actually put it to paper in those 2-3 weeks was very hectic. But we sort of had a familiarity with a lot of it once we got going.
Yeah, and to kind of like dip into your film festival run, do you have any fun moments, or just what was the experience like in general that you'd like to share with us?
It was so fun. I think that we were, I think one of the great things was that the premiere was at the Brooklyn Film Festival, and it was like right around the corner where we had shot so much of the film, and also where we had lived in our time in New York. So that was really special to be able to premiere it there. And we also did the Lower East Side Film Festival, and it was great to kind of have this New York festival run. It was like a perfect place for it. And then also going to Montreal, which is where David is from. So it was like all of his family and friends were able to come out, and that felt really special.
Playing the Montreal World Film Festival was a definite major milestone, because I would go to that festival growing up, and they screened the films at like my favorite movie theater in Montreal. So having all these people come out to this like independent artsy theater, all my friends and family, to see a film that we had made on the screen, just felt like a full circle coming together. And it was really special. And all these festivals were so great. They took care of us, and they just made it feel really special. They curated really good audiences. I think that was, seeing the film on a big screen for the first time with an audience that is very receptive to the film. And like, I remember like having my notebook with me for those first few screenings and writing down where something was hitting and something wasn't, if I needed to like tweak and edit or whatever. But just hearing an audience laugh at a moment that we had never expected there to be a laugh for, or for there to be like hearing tears in the audience, was just like a really cool experience.
Yeah.
That last scene, I'm going to talk about it again. That last scene where you guys are in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm just like, look at the sculpture. I was like, he has it right there. So that moment when she finally sees it, I was just like, okay, I'm good. We're good.
That's
if
good.
You could have just looked at the sculpture, you wouldn't have had to scream at me the entire time.
Right.
My word.
Honestly, if she would have just looked a little to the left, it would have been over. But it was the tension that made it.
Had she been able to look a little bit further throughout the years of our relationship, she may not have had to look for the sculpture at the end. It's all about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And how did you guys get those sculptures? Did you get a friend to make them for you, or where did those come from?
My mother is a sculptor, so all of the sculptures in the film were either ones that she had sculpted years prior, or she made a few specifically for the film as well. So it was really cool that the sculpture that Leah's character is working on throughout the film, that sort of morphs. I don't know how easy it is to pick up on, but the sculpture goes from a very, it changes posture based on like an epiphany that she has with the older man with Oscar in the coffee shop. And my mother created 2 different sculptures to allow for that transition to happen with the sculpture itself. And she's just a very skillful sculptor, and she was on set with us. She's in the movie at one point in the gallery when Leah gets her first gallery show, and she's the woman with the clipboard. So it was cool to have the artist featured.
Yeah, she also taught me how to make it look like I was sculpting.
Yeah, they had a couple private sessions.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I was really curious. I was like, did they buy them? And I was like, no, they couldn't have bought them. They had to like have commissioned them or something. But to find out that it was your mom, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a family affair.
Yeah.
And I have one more question about the sculptures. I don't know if it just like flew over my head, but the one that Will looks at, is that supposed to be like kind of representative of his character?
The one at the end, or the one in Guylain's home with all the
one in her exhibit? that he like stops to look, like the only sculpture he looks at?
I think there's a lot. I think it's open to interpretation, but we were actually just talking about that earlier today. Like,
oh, see,
just before we got on the phone. No relation to this. It just, I think so. I think the weight of the journey, of the story, of the city, and everything is what's supposed to be weighing down this sculpture character's shoulders. And yeah, I think my character possessed that a lot as well. And I think it was like a subconscious thing. And it's something that that I talked about with my mother when she was creating the sculptures, because we had sketched out designs for them. And the reason why the posture does change. But yeah, I think it could be seen that it is a representation of my character.
Yeah, because that's exactly how I saw it. Actually, I was just like, well, he's like just exhausted. He's hiding.
Yeah.
You know, there's all of this is just raining down upon him, and he's just in like armadillo mode. That's how I saw it.
That's a great phrase for it.
Yeah, armadillo mode. That's the sequel. Armadillo mode.
There it is.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about the dinner scene. That was so hard for me to watch. I was just like, I want to walk away. I was like, I can't. This is too bad. And I was just curious, what was it like filming it?
I don't remember.
It was tough.
It was tense, I think.
Yeah.
That was a hard shoot. We were in a very tiny space. We were shooting it in one of our producer's apartment spaces, and
it's a long scene too. It's essentially like a long one-act play with 3 sections to it, right? Where it's like before the sweet parents show up, and it's just us arguing and like cheering each other on, and we talk about the plan for the night. And then they all show up, and it's a fun time where we're talking about art and food and everything. And then the third part is where it gets intense, and it's about making the wishes and talking about regrets. And all of that, we shot that over, I think, 2 days. And it's a lot. It's just like, it's essentially 3 separate scenes all in one space. So I think going through all of those emotions and all of that dialogue and all of that like camera work in the span of a 2-day shoot was challenging, but
yeah. And I think it was also such a like performance-wise climactic scene for David's character, and having to direct that and also perform that, and you know, the 4 of us, it's just like a really intense emotional scene with like very specific beats that need to be hit well, that like the emotional truth has to be there or the scene would be terrible. So it was just being able to, you know, get through it and find those real moments
also
in a short amount of time. I mean, we kept, I feel like we shot it in 2 days and we kept like running out of time, and it like just became very stressful because everyone, the crew, the cast had been working so hard and for such like long hours, and it was just like it was stressful.
I think the last thing we shot of that whole scene was my monologue, and I feel like we were running out of time, and I feel like I kept thinking that everyone is tired and wants to go home or just like end the day or just move on to something else. And I was struggling with the lines because it was just a lot of stuff going on, and I was trying to focus on directing and on all different technical things and production design, dealing with, you know, nuances. And I remember Casey Biggs, who plays Oscar, and I like went off to the side and he gave me a little pep talk, which was, it's interesting that Gabby's sugar daddy helped me in that moment to really come through. And he's like a veteran actor, and he was actually a teacher of mine in grad school, and so he was really kind and supportive, and allowed me to refocus on the intention of the scene, and let every other element just fall where it may, and everything was already taken care of. So just like get back to being an actor in this moment. We already have the game plan for everything else, for the shot plan and everything. Just do the scene. And that's when all of a sudden it just locked, and it was really special. And also it's just good to remember that you can always edit. So I don't mean just for this podcast, if you want to cut out everything
with all of our all of our sidetracks. But yeah, I wanted to say that scene, or as you were saying, like 3 separate scenes all put together in one, it came out really well in the end. And it's really interesting to hear that you guys filmed it over 2 days, because it just like flows so seamlessly.
Yeah. Thanks.
And good job on your monologue, David, because I was just like, oh my God. I was like, oh.
Glad you felt that way, and not.
Yeah.
I'm sure you also felt, you monster.
You're psycho.
I was just like, is he gonna shut up, or is he just gonna keep talking?
Yeah.
I hope this came across to you. That scene, we've had a lot of people like ask about that scene in particular in panels and in screenings, and I don't know if it's helpful to like talk about it, to give away some of the rationale behind it. It's not really like a spoiler. It's just some people ask, like, did he know that was going to happen, or was that intentional? What was the point of that? Because he screwed everything up. So like, obviously, right? Like, why would he do that? And I think it's the rationale behind it that I think is like fun to talk about, is that he did intend for everything that happened to happen, in that he cares so much about his partner, and ultimately feels like he's failing. And clearly this older gentleman has an effect on her, both personally, emotionally, and for her career. And so if he reveals something, like, what could he do that would be so horrible that it would make Gabby walk out the door, and for Oscar to follow her, to console her and help her, but yet not so terrible that Guylaine wouldn't understand, if she was smart enough, and she is, as to why Will did that. And ultimately they end up both leaving that apartment that night, and in the comfort of their sweet parent. So it's like, it could go terribly wrong, and it did, but it's like, it's the ultimate sacrifice of, would you sacrifice the one you love for what you love, or to do what you love? And that's sort of the core element of that scene, is that he was making the ultimate sacrifice of losing the love of his life so that she could have an amazing career and realize all of her dreams, albeit without him in the picture.
Yeah, I caught that on, but I didn't get it at that scene specifically. I got it when he walked to where he's at her exhibit.
Yeah.
That he just shows up, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I see.
Totally, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the moment, it's like, you're a psycho. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Yeah.
David, do you do your own stunts?
Yeah. Totally. You'll see a lot more of them in armadillo mode.
Armadillo. There we go.
A lot more flips.
Yeah.
So, but like, was that seriously a slap? Because I think I saw like red on his cheek.
Yeah. I slapped him hard,
and
so many times.
I saw his cheek red, and I was just like, did she actually slap him?
That was the best take too, and like, it was very important. Like I remember after it happened, just like performance wise, I think we both just felt so locked in on that take. And we had other takes where it was like, I think she phoned in some of the slaps, or maybe not trying to hurt me or whatever, but that one was just like everything was coming through, and like my neck and my chin just like snapped, and like it just. But in the heat of the scene, it didn't hurt. It was just like very powerful and real. And I remember like right after we did that take and we cut, it was like that one. Because
I don't want to get slapped anymore.
Yeah. Like that's it. We're good.
It was the red on your cheek. I was just like, oh my God. Like,
yeah, it was like
angry.
pulsing too.
Yeah.
It's good hands. Good mitts.
Good slapping hands.
And do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers?
Be rich. I'm kidding.
Get a sugar mama, get a sugar daddy.
Yeah,
Exactly,
get a sugar mama, get a sugar daddy. I think that making Sweet Parents was like a really beautiful lesson in this idea of like take a leap into the darkness and a net appears. Like
totally.
I think that for so many years it seemed so impossible. And looking back even now, it's like it does feel impossible the way that we were able to make it. But like once we made the decision to make it, so many things fell into place. So many people came out of the woodwork. So many like favors were handed to us. We got so much help. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me in making this first feature, is just like, if you just make the decision to do it, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but things appear that will help you.
Yeah.
So
it's also great to try to work with friends, and like if you can assemble a group of people that you really like being around, I think that's just like common advice, but it really made a huge difference for us. It made it less overwhelming to have to wear multiple hats, knowing that we had really trustworthy people, really great people to be around, just around, and like you trust their opinion, you like their insight. So whenever we had an issue that we just like didn't have an immediate answer to, it felt great to open it up to the round and see if anyone else had an insight into it. And every time someone did it, and it saved the moment. Saved sounds so dramatic, but it just like allowed us to keep going because we had a family feeling on set. Yeah,
I think that David was really made it a priority to create this sense of community on set, and I think that's sort of rare. I think in filmmaking there's this very built-in sense of hierarchy where it's just like the director is calling the shots, and there's you
like a chain of command.
There's like a chain of command, and I feel like David was very much like, I just want us, like, please, like, all the ideas, let's all share in this together. We're all making this together. It's not like just me, which was really lovely. And I think it made for like a really nice, warm, safe feeling set.
That's definitely like a goal. It's hard to achieve. And I feel like I didn't hit it all the time, but trying to convey to a group of people that don't all know each other to treat this project as if it's theirs is, I think it's like every business you try to do that, where like you try to get all the employees to buy in. And I don't know, if there's a way to communicate that's specific to how you talk as a piece of advice for aspiring filmmakers, if there's a way for you to communicate that in a genuine, sincere way that makes everyone feel like it's not, oh, that's their job or that's my job. It's like, it's our job. Everything has to get done, especially on an independent film. We're not some Fortune 500 company. We're not some big studio blockbuster. On an independent film, everything is everyone's job. And the more we can congregate and get it done together, the better the results.
Yeah, that's great advice. And actually some advice that hasn't been given this week.
It has or not?
No, it hasn't. A lot of
few.
Everyone's a lot of, I think the major advice everyone has is to just go out and do it. But I think this perspective of, getting a team that can help you create it is also really important. So thank you guys for sharing that.
Absolutely.
But now that Sweet Parents is done in the film festival circa, where can our audience find the film now that it's going to be released?
Mm-hmm.
It will be released next week, and it will be on
November 24th.
November 24th, Tuesday. It will be on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play,
Microsoft
Movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just available to stream
all over the internet.
Yeah.
Perfect. So if anyone...
There's no movie theaters, just stay home, cook yourself a nice dinner, pop open a bottle of wine. Don't get into a fight before the movie with your significant other, because you're probably going to get into one after. So save it. Save it for when you have some, like, well, would you have done that? Let's save it.
Yeah, save your fight.
Yeah. Get your, massage your hands if you're the slapping kind. Some of me, no. But,
get your cheeks ready if you're going to be on the receiving end.
Yeah, just start moisturizing it.
And where can we follow you guys on social media just to keep up with all of your projects? Armadillo Mode, the sequel.
We are both on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook even.
At our names, yeah.
Just our names, Leah Rudick and David Bly.
I also have a YouTube channel. I make my own Amaro. I'm developing my own Amaro, which is an Italian bitter digestif liqueur, and I make some fun, insane videos documenting the process for anyone who's looking to make their own Italian bitter digestif spirit. But
Tundra Amaro
is what it's called. Or that's Amaro.
There we go. Everyone go subscribe and go watch all his videos.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Homemade booze for the quarantine. Why not?
I mean, you have the time, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for talking to me today. It was so fun. I really enjoyed the film, as I said, and I hope everyone gets a chance to stream it next week. And if you are listening and really love the heartbreak part of La La Land, go watch Sweet Parents, because that's basically what it is for 2 hours.
You crazy, crazy people. You're a blast. Thank you. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for having us.
We appreciate it.
I had so much fun talking to David and Leah, and I hope you enjoyed listening in. Make sure to stream Sweet Parents on Amazon, YouTube, and Google Play today. That's all for now. Thank you for listening in. Take it home for us, David and Leah.
I'm David Bly, writer, director, and lead actor of Sweet Parents.
And I'm Leah Rudick, co-writer and lead actor also of Sweet Parents. And you are listening to JeanBookNerd.com.